everyone, and welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we are wrapping up the month of March in my reading journals. We're going to start in my main reading journal for 2026, then we'll move into my reading data journal, and we'll also spend a very small amount of time updating my Gamifying reading journal. So if you're new here, I am someone who's very passionate about having multiple journals for reading, obviously. I like to have them to all have a task. Most of the excessive amount of journals I use last more than 1 year, so that's why I pick them up. And it just saves on trying to fit everything into one journal when I know I'm not going to make that work. And it means I don't have to set up things more than once. However, for 2026, I obviously went ahead and set up a whole bunch of stuff in this journal specifically to enjoy. We've done the reading tracker and I had 2 books to add on. And now I'm trying to find a book with the wrong number, and it was right there on this page here. Great for the fact that I wanted to have this to have a sort of scattered effect with the colors for the year, but it has been a little bit challenging sometimes to find where those numbers are, and sometimes when you're filming it looks a little bit funny because I'm constantly looking for it. We're now moving into the core challenges that I have after those 2 pages, so my bookshelf here and my reading tracker, and we're moving on to Read the Rainbow. Now this cover is green. It just looks weird when I printed it out. There are multiple different covers. Sorry, there's 2 covers for this. One's a very pale green, and then the one that I got sent for an ARC was this darker one, but it's definitely green. It just looks a little blue. We've already moved on now to the Days Red Pixel, and if you're new here, I say this almost every single time that I am doing one of these wrap-up videos. This is one of my favorite pages to spend time with. It is essentially 2 pixel charts side by side that give me data to see, visual data to see how I fare each month. So obviously there's a color key and I'll have it on the screen right now, but yellow is predominantly the main color that we'll see on this because that represents 1 book read per day or finished per day. So the left hand pixel chart is how many books I read per day. And the spottier one on the right is when I finish a book. So you can see I just put down a pink color. That means I finished 2 books on that particular date. Unfortunately for you can't read the numbers down the side. I did use a pale pen for that. And whilst I can see it in person, it is horribly hard to see it on camera. So do know that this may look a little bit weird when I'm talking about it to some people. I also had a comment as to why I go from chart to chart. I do week by week. So I'm adding the numbers in, the colors in just by 1 week on both charts at the same time. It means I don't have to come back and waste time filming and doing a second chart all over again when I'm going through my little diary there with all my information. We're now on to the A to Z challenge, and I was able to add on 5 books. So that was really good. I'm doing very well with my challenges this year, almost too good. We're only at the end of March, and I'm worried that when we get to the second half of the year, there'll be no challenges left to sort of work towards. However, that might be when I start working on emptying out my Kindle, because I have to update a goal later on, or not update it. I have yet to read anything off my Kindle that's not an e-arc. And I had the plan to read at least one every month, and it's not happened. So maybe in the later half of the year, I will be able to tackle that when I run out of all of these challenges in the front of this book here. Now we're going to spend a little bit of time on the book club reads, mainly because I set this up incorrectly. I am a co-host to one particular book club, and so that's what I set up here. And then I realized that I wanted to participate in a second one and didn't leave a page. And for the month of April, we don't have a read for the book club that I co-host, and we do for the other book club, and it was going to look a bit weird. So I've gone ahead and not only made these like little flip door cards that you'll see me working on right now. I'm going to score this so it then makes it easier to fold. So I'm going to do that for January through to March, because I will then go through and add in the covers of the books when I get to that point. I did only print out a certain amount of books this time around because I ran out of room on the paper. When I go to print out something else again with my sticker paper, I will add the rest of those books on. That's why they're empty when we get to that point. So yeah, I really enjoy this process. but it needed an update. So I went ahead and took off the cover for January for To Whatever End. I'm going to leave To Whatever End books on top as much as possible. And I actually haven't read any other books for the other book club yet, because either I couldn't get my hands on it for February's one, because that was Project Hail Mary, and with the movie coming out, it is very much so in hot demand, or it's actually out now. And then for January, it was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and if you've been around long enough, you know that's my absolute favourite series, and I just recently had done a reread, so I kind of didn't want to join in again when I was already really busy. So I did join in with the conversation. It was really amazing. So I'm really looking forward to being able to join in with Goober's book club for April. We're going to be reading The River Has Roots, I think it's called. I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope that I can mark something else down on this. It has been really rather spotty for book club over this year. So as you can see, I just have these little acronyms that I printed out. So TWE is for To Whatever End. That's the book club that I co-host. And GBC is Goober's book club, which is hosted by Jashi Corin and two other friends. One is one of my dear friends, Monica. So you can find that. I'll have it linked in the description below if you would like to look into that book club. So I did try to put down some double-sided tape to sort of hold the books closed. I'm actually going to come back through. I've got some sticky Velcro, and I'm going to put the tiniest piece on there and see if that will hold them down, because I do need them to stay flat. But I don't want to use double-sided tape because it's going to rip the page up. But for now, I did do that so it would stay flat. We're going to make the other two now. I probably should have cut this footage for you, but I really wanted to just show how easy it is to make these little flap like covers that I've done here. Especially if you have a scoring tool like I have, you can just use a ruler, which I used to do for the longest time. But when I needed to get a new paper trimmer, this one thankfully was very affordable and came with that tool attached. So for February, I didn't end up reading this book. I was told by a couple of people that it would be out of my comfort zone and really I would not enjoy myself. So I did end up skipping that particular book club read. And for March, I do have the book still sitting on my desk here. It is the 𝓲𝓷𝓷 𝓜𝓮. I've been wanting to read it for the longest time, but in March we had a lot of stress happen at the start of the month, and I had to figure out something very quickly, and I just did not need a dense political fantasy. So I am definitely planning on getting back to it before my library hire is done, but I kind of wish to listen to it. I think it's going to be one where I will find it more interesting to listen to as opposed to just reading it, because I did struggle when I did try to pick it up. So I think that it may be better for me to pick up the audiobook instead, but we'll see how we get on. I like the idea that even though we're supposed to read them during that particular month, that if you missed a month because maybe you couldn't get it out from the library, if you're being cautious with how much money you spend on books this year like I am, or if you just for whatever reason couldn't get to it at that time and then you can come back, I think that's really great. And so that's what I will be doing this year. I'm very much so into using the library, as you'll get to see later on as we go further into wrapping up March. I went to say April then, but we're only at the start of April. Anyway, I've lost the cover, but it's off to the side there. I'm going to find it right now. And this cover is gorgeous. I've just made a post on Instagram about it, and I'm really excited to start it later in the week. It is the 6th of April today, so happy Easter Monday for those who celebrate. We didn't really do Easter this year. We generally don't. The best thing about Easter for us is the chocolate eggs, and with the price of chocolate this year for Easter, we were very, very minimal in what we got. We might hit up the after Easter sales, I'm not sure, but we've all had an Easter bunny, chocolate bunny, and we've all had an Easter egg, so I feel like that's more than enough. I think my sister would disagree with me, as she was very upset when she realised she'd finished her Easter egg this morning. So yeah, on to March now that we've done the book clubs page, and we've also added the 2 books that I needed to the reading log type thing that I'm doing for the whole year. I am now going to add on the covers of the books that I read and tell you a bit about March. So I read a total of 16 books over March. It was not planned to read that much, especially since I was so busy. There was a lot of stress. There were loads of days where I did not read, but I locked in on audiobooks so much over this month that I got a lot done. So I actually ended up reading 10 audiobooks in March, which was crazy. And I had a really good time doing so. I do just now put these 2 book covers around the wrong way. So I put the sun and the star maker in the wrong spot, should be at the end, and then never after should be right there where I've put that one. I have fixed that off camera. I only noticed it as I was editing the video back, and thankfully the covers came up very well, but everything else is in order. But yeah, I read 16 books. Most of them were fantasy. 6 were arcs, which was very good, but I'm still behind in arcs. I'm currently up to date, as in nothing's overdue yet, but my next arc is due on the 14th. Then I have one due on the 15th, and you can imagine there's quite a few following after that, and I need to get moving, and unfortunately I'm not enjoying it. I'm hopeful that when I get into it a bit more, the arc that I'm reading currently, that I will start to like it a bit more. I've read bad reviews, and yeah, so I've been dragging my feet. I must force myself to read a little bit more tonight. There's nothing necessarily wrong with the writing. I just don't like the main protagonist. So we are working on the monthly view at the moment. Sorry, I went back to the page to see what colors I should match to the cover. I like to use the color key as a guide of what sort of main color is on the cover, so I can sort of differentiate. Sometimes the covers are all very similar in color, so I try to choose a different color off the page. So for the 2 𝓘𝓴𝓷 books, When a Scot Ties the Knot and Do You Want to Start a Scandal, they both have a lot of teal, so I used teal for the first one, and then I used her pink dress on the second book to match that one out. And I only marked down on the days that I actually read something. Right now I'm trying to figure out what color to use for the tricky business of fairy bargains. Absolutely loved that book. Cannot wait for book 2. It was one of my favorite reads of the month. And now we're going to move on very quickly. I think we're going to tag off one more arc. Yep, that was Tricky Business that I managed to finish, and move on into the functional pages here. So if you're new here, I have this layout pretty much every single month for 2026. We have the first lines. So I write down the very first line of every book I read, even if I end up DNFing it. And then we have the TBR list to the side there. We have a book haul section, and I always make sure there's not enough room because I am intentional about not buying any books this year. And I think I've only brought 1 or 2 myself personally. I've been very lucky to be gifted some books from my best friend this year, because she loves to show her love by buying me books, and also she did not put herself on a book buying ban. The amount of packages we've received in the last week for books, at least my friend is very, very happy with her purchases, and me and my sister, when we've received them in the mornings when she's been at work, have just been giggling to ourselves about yet another book package arriving on our doorstep. But yeah, I am definitely on a book buying ban, so I'm very grateful that my friend has been that kind, as I just work on making sure my finances are a little bit more aligned with what I want them to be. I did end up making a mistake on this page in my last video. I put the toll down in the wrong section, and so I've just gone and covered it up with a bit of sticker paper, and I'm going to write over top of it. So I'm just going to add onto these pages here, which is again staple pages for me, the titles of the books that I chose for my readathons that I'm working on. The little black journal off to the side there is my Gamifying reading journal, which we'll spend some time in at the end of this video. I know you guys love that book, so we definitely get into it in this video. This month I actually discovered BorrowBox. I knew about it, but I didn't realize that my library had it until I went to the library to ask how I got an audiobook that they were showing to work, because I couldn't find it on Libby, and they said, oh, you can get it through BorrowBox. So I have been using BorrowBox very well. That's why I have so many library books out on my list there. I only write down the ones that I actually start, as opposed to the ones that I hire out. I am one of those people who will go, oh, that sounds good, and hire out loads of digital books, whether that be on Libby or now BorrowBox, and not read them. I'll just end up either returning them or trying to renew them, and then someone else will need them. So I am one of those serial, I've got to try and get the book and add it to my shelves as quick as possible. And then, there's not enough time to read all the books that I want to. But I do try to get through as many of the ones that I really, really want to read. And I had a really good month of reading most of those audiobooks. Actually, all of them were from the library. And I was very fortunate because I was doing sort of like a middle grade March with Map of Stories, one of the year-long readathons that I'm doing by 𝓛𝓲𝓷𝓵𝓲𝓼 𝓤𝓼, I think it is. She does TBR-a-thon every year, and this year it is a year-long thing, and you could choose between 3 different ways of doing it, and I chose Map of Stories. And there was a focus on middle grade March type of month. So it was my first time participating in that. And because I use audiobooks, I got through 2.5. I am marking down the 3rd one on this list because I literally finished it the day after this month was over. So 1st of April. So I figured I basically did it. So I did that, and then I caught up on a few series that I wanted to finish, because one of my goals for this year is to complete some open-ended series that have been on my list for more than 2 years. I did complete the Castles Ever After series by Tessa Dare. I read books 3 and 4. Really loved them. I finished a couple of others. I finished the Arc of the Scythe series by 𝓛𝓲𝓷𝓴𝓼 𝓜𝓮, which was very good. That's been on my list to read for the longest time. I seem to need to have a year and a bit in between each book because it was just not my normal, but I really enjoyed reading them. So that happened. And then there were a few that you'll get to see soon when we go into the Reading Data Journal, where that stuff is stored, that I ended up choosing that I'm not going to continue on with. So there was one book that I read this particular month, The Witch and the Wolf by Lindsay Kelk. It was book 2 in the Savannah Read series, and I've chosen not to continue on with the series because I felt, despite that book did suffer from middle book syndrome, I was not interested enough, not even with the cliffhanger, to sort of continue on when I found it that insufferable. So it's just little things like that where I did a little bit of housekeeping to make sure that I was staying on track with my goal to intentionally decrease what's in my open series trackers state at the moment, with how many series that I add every month. I wanted to be trying to decrease how many I had left open. So here we are in the Reading Data Journal now, and this is the series tracker. So purple is 2026's colour. So as you can see, I am going to now complete off Castles Ever After right there, and we're going to continue on with looking around for more books and more series to sort of check off. There goes Arc of the Scythe. I really love this series tracker. The fact that I've been able to carry it over from last year when I set this up, and it will continue into next year as well, and I've got plenty of room to grow. It's just the best thing. I used to hate setting up a series tracker every single year, and this system really works for me. It does mean, however, that I do make some mistakes though when I'm filming these, and I'm going to make one very soon. But first I'm going to choose not to continue on with Big Shots by Tessa Bailey, and there's that Savannah Read series that I just mentioned. And then I get sort of like almost trigger happy about what else am I not going to continue on with. This one is by S.F. Williamson. It's the A Language of Dragons one. I didn't really enjoy book 1. I was only going to continue it if it improved, and my friend said it did not, so I decided not to. This, however, is a mistake. I thought that was Danielle L. Jensen's, what was it, the Viking type one that she had. I can't remember it, but it's got a similar name. It's got Fate in it. I thought it was that series, but it's actually Bridget Kemmer's adult series that she's doing, the Warrior Princess Assassin one. I really liked book 1, so I need to go fix that. I do fix it off camera I did not end up fixing it here. I was, like I said, a little bit trigger happy. And I'm going to add on all the series that I started, both the middle grade series that I started. So I did read 2 books from the Melissa De La Cruz Never After, Chronicles of Never After series, which I really enjoyed. But I also started A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison, and both of them I'm going to continue just for fun. I really did enjoy the choices that I ended up going with. They were really good, and I also researched a lot to try and find who gave the best sort of like thoughts about it. I've always loved Melissa De La Cruz. She wrote the Blue Blood series, and I was obsessed with that when I was younger. So I was very happy that she had like a fairy tale retelling type story. And then A Pinch of Magic was much darker than I expected, but I really enjoyed it, and I want to read more of the sisters and how they get on with their magic from here out. So here is the goals page, and as you can see, number 4 has got 0 for every single one this year so far, but I did complete a goal. I have read 6 new authors to me, so that got ticked off, and everything else is sort of on track. So for the next few pages, we're going to be adding to the ratings, genres, page length, and what's the other one? Format, just to these trackers that I'm absolutely loving. I just love how visual it is, and that you can see that obviously 4 stars is way ahead than anything else, and that is pretty good to me. I think seeing that 4 stars and above have quite a few already means that I'm doing mostly okay. Obviously 3.5 and 3 also have quite a few, and they're actually beating 4.5 and 5, but I feel confident that this year is not going to be a year where I have a lot of lower read books. And I know a lot of people say that 3 stars is still a really good book, and in some cases for me it totally is, and in some cases I do feel like anything below 3.5 stars is kind of meh to me, and yeah, it's just down to personal preference. On to the genres, I did end up reading obviously the sci-fi for the 𝓞𝓬𝓮 and a few more historical romances. I actually marked A Widow's Charm by Caitlin Paxson down as a historical romance because it had every bit of the trappings of a historical romance. It did not feel like a romantasy to me because the magic system was so mild, so I decided to choose historical romance for that, but people may disagree. But that's where I put it in my own tracking. Obviously, audiobooks are hugely on the rise for winning best format of the year. I'm very worried that I'm going to run out of room if that's how many I've used already for the first quarter. We're now onto the yearly stats page. This is one of my favorites to fill in. It's just a huge omnibus of just stats. It's got everything, and I know I repeat my information over multiple different pages. This is one way that I take in information. When I was in university, I was just talking to someone about it the other day actually, that I'm one of those people that would take scribbly notes in class and then come home that day, rewrite out my notes and color code them, and that's how I just retained all the information. And so that's what I do here as well. Plus, I have a bit of brain fog and memory, I wouldn't say loss, but it's harder for me to remember things now just because of my chronic illness. And I want to give myself the best opportunity to remember as much as possible. And by repetition, that works for me. So we're now moving in to the DNFs and the rereads page. I did actually have a DNF in March. And since filming this, I realized that I had 2. So I do need to go back in and make some slight changes, or I actually think I said in the last video that I was just going to add it into April and be done with it that way, which would probably be best since I have done my Q1 stats page. So probably just going to do that. But I did DNF a book. I didn't reread anything for March, which was weird because I was rereading at least 1 book per month in January and February. I'm just adding to my socials page, which I don't really talk about. That's more for me. And now on to the library. As you can see, I had 26 hires over March, which was absolutely insane. By getting BorrowBox, like I mentioned, using Libby, and I also went to the physical library and picked up a few books. So yeah, it's a bit excessive, but it did mean that I am now almost $500 of saving money on books this year, which is a fantastic result in my opinion. So just adding to the ARCs page here, I'm still on track with my percentage goals full neck galley there. Anything above 90% was staying on goal, which I have done. And now we're going to move on to setting up for the actual monthly stats page. Like I mentioned, things get repeated, but it gets its own little page here, and everyone has been talking to me about these little flower stamps over on Instagram since I showed my Q1 setup, which I will have as a shorts on here as well. So I don't show it in this video. I did film it afterwards, and I did it on my phone. So I had to give the content to certain places, and I chose to do Q1 stats separately from this. But when we do the flip through for Q1, you'll get to see it in person, well, through the camera that way, and I'll talk about it a bit more and what was missing from it because I made a mistake. But everyone was talking about these stamps, and I just love them. Obviously, I've used them throughout this whole setup for 2026. I always like to take a photo if I can't see the setup on the side. So that's what my camera was out doing then. But yeah, no, the stamps are from Temu. I did end up getting the stamps from there a while ago though, so I'm not sure if they're still in stock. And they are holding up very well. I was a bit dubious about them at first because I thought they didn't hold ink well, and it was just down to how I was stamping with them. I've been choosing to use pen ink rather than an ink pad, and that's down to me. So we'll see if they work with an ink pad, because I've decided that for the next quarter I'm going to change the header colors from purple to that kind of magenta color that you can see on the screen there, and I do have an ink pad that's basically that color. You'll get to see it in the Q1 flip through because I used it in that. So yeah, we'll see if that works. I feel like it needs a little bit of a change up, and so I thought with a quarter change that would be the perfect time to do it. So we'll just change the colors around. All the writing will be done with purple instead of the magenta color, and the headers will be done the other way. So I think that'll be fun. Once again, I am too zoomed in. There will be portions of this setup. Thankfully, it's very mild, where you may not be able to see what is exactly going on. You may just see a hand. But I'm really enjoying using these visual guides with the circles now to sort of map out the pie charts. I am not very good at getting them incredibly accurate. I'm sure there's a better way of the system of how people do it. I've never done it before, and I chose not to print them out. So yeah, I'm trying to get them as accurate as possible. I'm only a human though, but I'm really enjoying how they look when I'm finished mapping them all out on this page. And I do make a mistake in one of the circles, not in the star rating section, but in the next one along. And that just was, I used the wrong color pen. So I just decided to just leave it since it wasn't actually on the pie chart. I just had it there as a key because it gets added that way every month. But we're just going to add the other 3 little charts now and add in all the little circles and that. I'm really enjoying using these printed out headers as well. It just makes everything look a lot more streamlined. And off camera, before I started doing the Q1 stats page, I ended up putting borders around the pages because I just felt incomplete. And so from now on, I'm going to be continuing that. I really, really like those borders. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing that in the future for the rest of these stat pages. It brought the page together. I don't know why a tiny little double-lined border did that, but it did, and I'm just going to use it every single time. So like I mentioned, we're going to put these headers down. We're going to have format, audience, and genres. And for the month of March, I did end up with 5 different genres. Fantasy, romantasy, and romance tend to always stick around. But historical romance was there, as well as sci-fi. For the previous, I think both the last 2 months, I had paranormal, but I didn't have any this particular month. So that was good. Not that I have anything against having paranormal, but it was just nice to see a different genre getting in there. I am very much so a creature of comfort, and I will stick to the same genres all the time. Sure, I will move around like in micro genres, so like gothic fantasy versus cozy fantasy. But on a whole, I just sort of stick to fantasy, romantasy, and romance. There's that mistake with the purple. And yeah, it was nice to have not only middle grade books, but also some other genres. And I'm really enjoying the historical romances at the moment. And obviously for April, with Map of Stories, we're now going into classics. So I'm going to be reading a few classics. I'm going to reread Pride and Prejudice because it's about time that I do that. And then I have to admit that I don't really have a lot of classics under my belt, aside from when I took 1 year of English Lit at university and realized that I was more of a historian and liked to have facts as opposed to trying to do, interpretation that way. So, yeah, I didn't spend much time there, but I did enjoy reading Jane Eyre then, so I'm not going to read that again now. I am hoping to pick up some more Jane Austen and a classics, children's classic, so like maybe Anne of Green Gables or The Secret Garden or The Chronicles of Narnia, something like that. And then obviously also going to look maybe at Dracula. Yeah, I've got options and I'm looking forward to sort of playing around with that over this month ahead. But for March, it was nice to have a different genre with sci-fi. So we're on to the last pie chart now. I did have a little problem with my pen and the ruler not gelling together, and there was a line that I drew and it didn't end up on format, so I had to redo it. But apart from that, this has gone pretty straightforward, and we're going to then go into my Gamifying reading journal, where things go a little bit, very mild, off what I had planned. So for Buzzword Challenge, I was finally able to finish Before and After. Now, I thought that I had finished this in January because Castles Ever After was on the front cover of one book, but I felt like I was really pushing it. So I decided that I would use The Never After, The 13th Theory, which is book 1 in the Chronicles of Never After by Melissa De La Cruz for that. And I will have to catch up on the title for March in the Buzzword because I could not find anything with this or that in it that I haven't read and something that I want to read now. So we'll have to see how I go with that for the rest of the year. I don't mind catching up. Like I mentioned, I am going to add in The Stolen Slippers, which is book 2 in the Chronicles of Never After by Melissa De La Cruz for this Whispering Well activity here. And also I'm about to make the biggest mess. I wrote down the prompts as opposed to the titles of the books. As you can see, I'm like, oh no. And then I forgot that this paper is not as forgiving as Archer and Olive. You used to be able to just pick up one of these like markers and go over it and it would be fine. Then you could write over top. But this paper is very different. This is a BUKE, or is it BUKE? I'm not sure. I call it the BUKE notebook. And so the paper is very different. So I end up actually having to go back in and despite using multiple pens on it, it did not cover it at all. So I'm going to just stick a piece of black dot grid paper that I've got. Thankfully, I've got some cut-offs of stored away. And whilst that is drying, that's why I put the paper between it. I'm going to fill in my Q1 cover bingo here. And then I'm also going to end up working on another bingo board in a moment, but we'll go back to that page beforehand. Thankfully, I only had 3 that I did not complete in Q1. So this is the Spring into Reading one that we'll work on in a moment. But first, let's work on this. So yeah, I just go and stick in a little bit of black paper, fix it easy as, and maybe the dots won't match up, but that's not going to be too much of an issue. And then we can move on into Spring into Reading. So we're almost at the end of this video. I know it's a longer one. You guys have commented saying the longer the better. So I hope that those who enjoy those longer videos will be happy with this one. I know this one always gets the most views every month. So I'm very excited that you guys have another wrap up video. And then, like I mentioned, we will be doing a Q1 flip through. That'll be the next video that I film, and I'm not sure what we're going to have after that. I do have a couple of shorts to add up. We've got this spin a wheel game for April to be put up, and I think I need to put up the Q1 stats page. I know it's up on Instagram. I just can't remember if I've added it as a short or not. It's always very difficult for me to remember where I've put what. So yeah, I'll make sure that it's updated this week as well. I did really well with spring into reading. I only think I had 4 that I didn't do, and 1 was the book for the month, and I'd already read it before, so I didn't feel like rereading it. So yeah, I'm just now showing you the flip through, or going backwards, really, to show you what happened in the setup of this book. And then we're going to go into the reading data journal and my main journal, just to have a quick look through what we ended up doing. So again, a huge thank you to everyone who has spent this half an hour with me. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had some good reads over March. Please leave me the name of your favorite read in March, or if you're feeling a little spicy, tell me the book that you hated in March. I can tell you mine. It was The Impossible Garden of Clara Thorne by Summer in England. It is the lowest rated book in 2026 so far. It's my first 2-star. But yeah, that's where we'll leave it. And I'm so glad that you have spent some time here. And until we next meet, I hope that you have fun reading or journaling. I hope the weather has been good for your Easter if you're out with family. It was kind of miserable here for some of the days of Easter. And I've just been getting over a cold, so I wasn't really outside anyway. But yeah, here's the end of the video. I will stop nattering on now and go get a drink because I'm feeling a little bit parched. But thank you again, and I will see you in another video very, very soon. Bye, everyone.